Thank you, listeners, for joining us for today's Elko Live program here on KELK, featuring community news and local issues. A really important topic that we've seen emerging in discussions with the Elko Area Chamber of Commerce, local city and county officials, just a variety of people that are interested in seeing us grow responsibly, is the availability of affordable housing. So we have perfect guest here today to talk about that very issue from Nevada Rural Housing, which is a local government entity. We're going to find out all about this organization and how they can help our residents and our community to grow. Director of Communications, Katie Coleman, is here alongside the Business Development Specialist, Kevin Hickey. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for being here today. And Kevin, thank you for being on the program.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So the reason we get to visit with them in person is that, well, not only do they make frequent visits to rural Nevada, which we're going to find out about, but both of you are on hand for Elko hosting the Nevada Association of Counties meeting, right, Kevin and Katie? And from your perspective, how did that go?
Yeah, it's great. You get to get together with a lot of county and community leaders throughout the state, come together and learn about issues that impact everyone from rural communities to even the urban areas, and find solutions to those, put those brains together and work out that information. And it's a great opportunity for all.
I know, we were pleased to host it. And what was your impression, Katie?
It's a wonderful event. It's a very important organization, and we actually have a really special connection to NACO in that NACO actually appoints some of our board members. That's kind of how we're governed. We're not a state agency. That's kind of a misconception sometimes. We are, like you said, considered a local government entity. It's kind of a convoluted description, but really our board comes together by appointment from NACO and then the Nevada League of Cities. And so that's kind of what our oversight looks like. So they're really important to us because we're really working for our local governments, local cities, local rural communities, and we learn a lot about their priorities and their needs when we come together to join these occasions.
So NACO, as Katie mentioned, is just as diverse as the 17 counties it represents. And that's what we're going to find out about this local entity as well, Nevada Rural Housing. I guess we should probably start by describing what rural means, because for a lot of us, it's anything outside of Clark or Washoe County, Katie, but could be different.
It sometimes we like to say, it's hard to say and sometimes hard to describe rural, but we're lucky because we have some parameters based on programs. Our agency has a variety of programs that we have to have some jurisdictional, geographical parameters that say what is rural, what isn't. We're going to talk through some of those programs, but handful of our programs use a parameter that was determined by state legislature actually a handful of years ago. So areas with populations under 150,000 are eligible for a handful of our programs, including our homeownership programs. That includes down payment assistance and some tax credits. Kevin's the expert in that, so he'll be talking about that. And that also applies to our development efforts, building multifamily housing and those sorts of things. The one area that does not have that 150,000 population application is our rental assistance. We do not offer rental assistance in Washoe County at all or Clark County at all. That's handled by the Reno Housing Authority and the Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority. And why do I mention that? Because our homeownership programs also have eligibility areas in Washoe County and in Clark County. And some folks are like, what? What are you saying? There's nothing up there in Washoe County that's eligible. Well, Sparks is considered rural. There's pockets. So it gets a little complicated, but rural is hard to define and easy to define for us based on programs.
Exactly.
So,
it's harder if you become an entity. I mean, for residents and people in need of services, and I think what listeners will come to appreciate, Katie, is that this entity, you have a resource available and you're trying to direct it in the most impactful way, correct?
Absolutely. We are mission driven to our core. I know a lot of organizations say it. We walk it and we talk it. And we do housing. If it's not housing, if it's not connected to the mission, we don't do it. And so, it's who we are.
Because as you said, the entity or the agency, again, which is not, a federal agency, a state agency, it's in response to local needs. Would you say a public-private sort of setup? I mean, I'm familiar with those, right?
We are a public entity, but we do thrive in a lot of public-private partnerships. We have to make our own money. We don't have a line in the state budget. We don't get any funding from the state. We do operate some federal programs, and the federal programs come with dollars to operate those programs, but we have to have our own operating budget to keep the lights on and keep our folks paid. And so we deliver programs that are self-sustaining. They're recycling some of those revenues back into the program to keep things going and keep the services and the programs going back into those communities that we're aiming to serve. So we're hustling. We have to keep our own boat afloat.
That's right.
It's very entrepreneurial and service-based. It's a very unique setup, and we love it.
And so we're going to get some examples of that. I think if you're hearing, listeners, what I'm hearing is that's really a layer of accountability and transparency. I think people can appreciate those kinds of collaborative efforts and partnerships. We're able to achieve a lot more when we combine those. Would you say, Kevin?
Oh, absolutely. And when I look at what goes into like our community development projects and building, affordable housing in rural Nevada, the funding sources are as varied as the people who work on those projects, the people who are going to live in those communities. It's a lot. And I'm glad we have a really dedicated and smart finance team that helps figure all that out.
Mm-hmm. And so I think Katie mentioned, just as we were preparing to go on air, there's about 15 projects or properties that I think that are owned by or managed by Nevada Rural Housing.
Yes. Sprinkled throughout the state, about 15, and they're different shapes, sizes, serving all kinds of folks who do need access to affordable, safe, clean, sanitary housing. And we're doing more. We're always looking for opportunities to deliver the right fit housing to communities that need it. And most communities are in need of that supply. And it's fun. It's fun and it's hard and it's most importantly really rewarding.
Oh, I was just going to say it's got to be satisfying.
Yes.
So Kevin Hickey, who is with Nevada Rural Housing, and we're discussing with Katie Coleman. So Kevin, are there projects you're working on here, or are you looking for some ideas or to make connections?
Yeah, so our homeownership program, which is where I mostly focus my time and energy, has a program going right now which provides down payment assistance of $25,000 to rural Nevadans. And Elko County, Elko City is a perfect example of where those funds can be used to help people get into a home. And so this is funded through a federal program through the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. And we received a certain amount of money from the federal government through the state to offer this program. And we get to go out and talk with local lenders right here in Elko and tell them about our program. And they offer it out to their customers who are looking to purchase a home and may qualify for the program. They can get that $25,000 in down payment assistance, which is forgiven after 3 years of living in the home, which is a pretty fantastic program. Those come with federal income limits that we don't really control, but the great news is we have another down payment assistance plan called Home at Last that has a much more generous income limit of $165,000. So for those earning a higher income, there still is the opportunity for down payment assistance. And that is eligible right here in all of Elko County. So it's great. Yeah.
So Kevin, if someone listening says, oh my gosh, I want to try to get in on the ground floor of that, do they contact a local lender? Do they reach out to Nevada Rural Housing? How do you get started?
Yeah, they can do it both ways. So going to our website, homeatlastnv.com, is a great place to start. It tells you about the different programs we have, including Home Means Nevada, the Home at Last program, and then, as was briefly mentioned earlier, our tax credit program called a Mortgage Credit Certificate. They can learn about that information on the website. And there's also a lender referral tool on that page that's broken up by region. And so folks locally, if they click on Eastern Nevada, they'll find local lenders right here in Elko that can assist them with the program. And the lenders that we have on there are very active. They're some of the most active in the program throughout the state. So for locals here in Elko, you have a great resource in those lenders.
And are there deadlines that people should be observing?
So for the Home Means Nevada program, because it's federal dollars, it does have a timeline of December 31st, 2024. So the end of next year. If the funding runs out, the funding for that program is $2.5 million. If it runs out before then the program will end. But we still have, a little more than a year and plenty of funding to see us through that time unless there's a huge uptick. Which is good. It gives people the opportunity to take advantage when they're ready. There's no hurry right now to do it. Folks can figure out where they're at and where they want to be in the next, few months and still have time. So there's a timeline on that. The Home at Last program has been around since 2006. It's self-funded, so it's not going anywhere, fortunately. So that down payment assistance will continue, indefinitely.
So, Kevin, when we're discussing low income versus affordable housing, someone listening saying, well, are there parameters on what kind of home I can buy? And we all know that some inventory is limited within rural communities.
Yeah, so fortunately, the limits on the programs are pretty generous, and they vary from program to program. But I think the lowest purchase price limit is $647,200, depending on the program. It goes higher. Home at Last doesn't even have a purchase price limit. So that's good. And, like I said, with the Home at Last program allowing incomes up to $165,000, we're really talking, not low income. We're really talking low to moderate income and helping folks knowing that with increased interest or higher interest rates, increased home prices, it's harder for folks to buy a house. And even folks that might earn up to $165,000 a year might still need help with the down payment. And that's why these programs are here to help.
Kevin Hickey is with Nevada Rural Housing, and he's the business development specialist. And so we're discussing some of these special programs. Are there other programs that you are helping to administer specifically, Kevin, before I shift back over to Katie?
Yeah, so I can just touch briefly, too, on our Mortgage Credit Certificate program. Again, for homeowners, it can be used with the down payment assistance, so you can benefit from both programs, which is fantastic, I think. And what it does is it allows you, a home buyer who has that MCC, allows them to claim up to 20% of the mortgage interest they pay each year as a dollar-for-dollar tax credit. So people might be familiar with, when you have a home and you have a mortgage, you get to write off a portion of the interest, but it's not dollar for dollar. You still get that tax credit, but with the MCC, you get the dollar-for-dollar tax credit. And right now, with interest rates and purchase prices being what they are, it's thousands of dollars a year in savings that goes the entire life of the loan. So there's potential to save a lot of money with taxes on the MCC. It's for first-time buyers only. So that's another thing to point out. So the Home Means Nevada program and the MCC are first-time buyers only. Home at Last has no first-time home buyer restriction.
Well, these are great programs, and I guess you have had some success, obviously, in encouraging people, in addition to those housing developments we were talking about locally with Katie. Any idea about how many of these loans you've been able to help administer in rural Nevada or even Elko County, Kevin? Yeah,
so Elko specific, I don't have those details right here, but it's about 10,500 Nevada families that have been helped through the program since 2006.
Wow.
A couple billion in mortgage values and over 60 million in down payment assistance. So sometimes people say, well, gosh, it all sounds too good to be true. This is one of those few programs that is exactly as it sounds. It is a fantastic program that helps a lot of people get home. And like I say, here in Nevada, 10,500-ish families in the last, since 2006. So.
And that's a lot of money circulating in the economy, Kevin.
100%, especially with that MCC. That's money that comes right back into the borrower's pockets that gets infused back into the local economy.
Right. You can use that for your home improvements, several trips to your home improvement store.
Yeah, that, college educations, vacations, like you said, renovations, you name it.
Well, that's fantastic. Katie's ready to chime in on this one.
I do have some pretty impressive statistics for the program entirety. I don't have Elko right in front of me. I should have pulled those, but over the entire program's duration since 2006, 2.3 billion mortgages provided, 38.1 million in estimated tax savings through that tax credit program. Those are some of the biggie numbers. A lot of assistance getting out there to make affordable home ownership something of a reality for folks who thought this is never going to be for me.
Yeah.
And it's a path that is life-changing.
Absolutely,
Really,
it is.
really.
And I'd like to point out too, we get a lot of support from local leaders, local government, from the city and the county. We our MCC program is funded through what are called private activity bond cap, which is a tax exempt funding mechanism through the government. It's not actual dollars, but every city and county in the state is allocated a certain amount each year through the state itself. And sometimes it's not enough to do local projects. So we go around the state every summer and say, hey, if you have your private activity bond cap and you're not having, you don't have a use for it this year, please transfer it to Nevada Rural, because we can pool it together and use it to fund this program. And the city and county have been very supportive of that effort from the start. Yep. So we're very appreciative of that, support from local leaders.
We've seen that on our agendas, and as you said, time and time again, it really passes without question. So, yes. Yep. So that's a testament to a great reputation, because it's well known that Elko County is very conservative in nature, but also believes in people, not getting necessarily the hand out, but the hand up, right?
Yep.
And it seems like this program is a model for that. Nevada Rural Housing, which is a local government entity. So we've been talking about home buying and purchasing, Kevin. Is there a good opportunity now? Should we talk about people who maybe are not ready to buy for any reason?
Yeah, I'll let Katie take that.
All right, sounds good. But I don't want to leave anything out. So if there's something we left out, we'll come back. Okay.
Yep, sounds good.
So everything we've been talking about is getting into your home, buying a home, that there aren't limits on what kind of home you can buy, for example. That's really encouraging, because, or even some generous allowances on income. Mm-hmm. There are some parameters for first-time home buyers, for example. Correct. But you can have a lot to say about the investment that you're choosing to make, which is also important to rural Nevadans. So in the interim, though, there might be some opportunity for transitional or otherwise affordable or even low-income housing. Katie, should we talk about that?
Certainly. And I wanted to make one note. You mentioned something really important on the homeownership front for those who aren't quite ready. We do help a lot of folks who say, man, homeownership, I think that's something I want to do, but man, my credit's a bit of a way off. I need to do some work. We have tools and partners who can help with that as well. Yeah. Homebuyer education is a big component of that. So we do a lot of work, a lot of training, education, messaging around it's a journey, it's a preparation, it's a matter of being ready. You don't just go and apply for a mortgage and buy a house overnight, right? We all spend a bit of time getting prepared for that biggest purchase of your life. So we also focus on that. So if anyone's listening and they're thinking, that homeownership thing it's not for me, it's just not something I'm ready for, still check it out. You might be surprised what you can get prepared for. So I wanted to make mention of that as well.
I'm glad that you did. And you can go to that website to look over the tools or the access?
You sure can. Homeatlasnv.org. And there's an education component. You can actually take homebuyer education online. It's free. We've put it all together. All the program details are in there. You get a certificate at the end. It is required to participate in the program as well. But it's good for folks who are like, I don't even know what home buying's like.
Yep.
Go take it.
Exactly.
Get in the game.
Yep, get in the game and start building your equity and toward your future. And
Yes.
sort of like all those other big life decisions, insurance and life insurance.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes. So with regard to folks who are more on the low income scale,
maybe just getting started or coming out of a situation.
Yes. And we're looking more at access to rental assistance and those sorts of things. And Nevada Rural Housing actually started as a PHA, a public housing agency. We didn't originally start with homeownership programs and building multifamily housing. We started issuing vouchers. So we still operate the Section 8 or Housing Choice Voucher Program for the 15 rural counties, including Elko. And that is something that residents can access when we open the wait list. So that's something that we still continue to do. That team is really important in terms of those in transition or those who maybe are on that cusp of homelessness. We work with a lot of local and state agencies in terms of referrals, in terms of those kinds of access points to make sure people get to the right spot as well. Our wait list does open periodically. You can imagine how many applications we get for our approximately 1,400 vouchers. It's not a lot. Nevada needs more vouchers assigned from the federal government, but that's what we have to work with. So our wait list does only open periodically. I'm talking once every couple years. So in the meantime, we try to get people where they need to go to get access to other kinds of services if they're on the brink of homelessness, if they're needing other kinds of services in terms of welfare or what have you. So we do have those really good, close relationships with other health and human services type agencies, continuum of care, those sorts of things. So that team does an outstanding job. But I did also want to mention that we have access to funds that we've applied for and been granted for emergency rental assistance. That's a 3-month term on those assistance funds. You do not have to be part of our program to apply for those. And that's also available on our website, which is nvrural.org. Same website, but you can kind of remember the programs differently that way. So nvrural.org will get you to our rental assistance materials. So emergency rental assistance is something that we can hopefully help with when the wait list isn't open. Security deposit assistance, that's a big barrier for folks. Hey, I can do this rent thing, but man, these people want $800 to get in and I can't do it, right? Down payment assistance, security deposit assistance, right? That barrier for entry into having safe, secure housing is a big deal. And so we have opportunities for that as well. So that is really helping that person at that point in their lives get into a good spot. And our team is outstanding in that department as well.
Oh, and for people listening too, we're discussing Nevada Rural Housing, which is a local government entity, and they are administering any variety of funds available, and we're finding out about all kinds of incredible opportunities for home ownership assistance and now for rental assistance, possibly emergency rental assistance. You do have a couple of housing developments locally, and I wanted to make sure you got to talk about the Bristlecone Apartments or the Mountain Shadows on Winchester. And I know you've been following through on those two. For example, Kevin, you're not just about purchasing something and putting it out there. Sometimes rehabilitation, remodeling might be in order, right?
Yeah, a perfect example. It's not a local project, but in Pioche, we're starting to put together a project there that will rehab an old site and turn it into 32 units of affordable housing. And, we're building a new project down in Mesquite right now that's 96 units. Again, affordable based on, I believe 50% of area median income is the income cap on those. So they're geared toward helping those, that the old term has been low income housing, but we really know it to be workforce housing. We need folks who are providing the services that we rely on every day, even the conveniences of, having your, local barista, or even teachers, firefighters, police officers. We need them to be housed locally and make it affordable. So we're really talking workforce housing. The one area median income that comes off the top of my head is Clark County, which has an area median income of about $80,000. If you apply 50% of that, these are folks that are making $40,000 a year. That's not low income. That's a moderate income. It just doesn't support the typical housing. So that's why these projects are super important.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Kevin, thank you. Kevin Hickey, of course, is our guest alongside Katie Holman. Kevin is the business development specialist for Nevada Rural Housing. I think we'll have time in the program, too, because it just occurred to me, when you use the term workforce housing, that really sticks, because in order to grow, for example, in Humboldt County, they've got to have some workforce housing. So probably got your work cut out for you there. But Katie, I know you wanted to chime in on that topic too. Yeah, just about the Mountain Shadow Apartments and the Bristle Cones. I mean, I'm sure they're full right now, but those are two good local examples of housing.
Yes, and Bristle Cone is actually in Ely.
Thank you. Okay,
yes. And Mountain Shadows is here in Elko over on Winchester, I believe, and that was rehabilitated in 2021. In general, they're occupied, 100% occupied, and it's no wonder when they're rehabilitated and they're pretty fresh and new and well maintained. It's a pretty great place to be. But those also are managed with wait lists and by a management team that's making sure that we're keeping those occupied, and the turnover happens pretty quickly when there are availabilities and those sorts of things. And what's kind of also cool is these properties, as they're developed, Kevin mentioned funding and how they're built. You need a PhD to figure out how the funding all comes together, but yes. It's complex, but it's really neat how it comes together, because some of the funding dictates kind of what sort of subsidies are built into it. Some of these properties give some preference, that's the term, but preference to seniors, or so some of these properties are senior properties.
Okay.
Some of them are so it's kind of cool to evaluate needs, build right fit housing for communities, and then your point about workforce and how that hits right. Because the Chamber of Commerce said that is the single greatest need right now. Yes. We need workers, but these small businesses especially, they can't pay, the higher mining wages. Yep. And it's just been this vicious circle, if you will. Yeah. So understanding what a community really needs in terms of housing, I think really combats that low-income housing kind of thought. Mm-hmm. That this is what I believe it to be, instead of really saying, oh, okay, this is for seniors because, boy, I know we have that need, or, gosh, we've got some industry coming into town that it's going to help us grow, but we're going to need some housing for that. So really doing the evaluation, and a lot of our local government leaders are doing a good job having those moments of evaluation and saying, yeah, that's right fit. We really need to focus on that and bring the right thing to our communities.
Great. And you're not trapping people in this sort of a low income, descriptor. You're, helping them so that they can settle in and really, maintain their lives as they work their way up. And especially if you have children, my gosh, that would be such a struggle. We've heard of people, whether they're doctors moving to Elko or people in the mining industry, it's been discouraging for their families because they can't always find, that right fit for housing. So Kevin, do you think Nevada rural housing, is there an opportunity to pair, say, with mining, for example? Do you get that? Okay, you're nodding.
It is, yes. It's been a big topic of conversation because we know that housing is an issue, just availability, cost aside, the availability is one thing. So I know that our community development team and executive leadership talk with mining companies, and there's a lot of brainstorming that's going on. There's a lot of ideas that are being thought of, some outside the box ideas, which is great. That's what we need. We need really innovative thinking to solve these housing solutions. So they're working on it. I don't have any, I wish I had a magic wand to wave and say, poof, it's all there. So, but it is a topic of conversation and something that's a pretty high priority. So hopefully that'll work itself out in the short term.
Well, and kind of putting it back on to our municipal and county governments, because the reason that these two are here is part of the NACO, Nevada Association of Counties discussion. You have to have infrastructure in place for new developments. So places like Winnemucca, sadly, they're a little behind. They haven't had the financial resources. The city of Elko has been planning all over the place. So they have lots of shovel-ready projects, right? Or areas. Yeah, so that makes a huge difference. So still to come, more discussion on hopefully the Winnemucca situation so that we can get people ramped up for a huge lithium boom, I think is what's going to be happening, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that has pushed the conversation even higher up the priority list.
Definitely. So in the time that we have, we're just kind of wrapping up, but I want to make sure, Katie and Kevin, that we got to all the high points today with our guest from Nevada Rural Housing.
Yeah. One little plug for our agency, just in terms of knowing more about us. We've been around since 1973. We're actually celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, and appreciate the opportunity. We want to make sure that our rural communities know that we're your rural housing authority, and we are really big on one-on-one. Call us, ask us questions. Let us get you to the right place. And if it's not us, we'll get you where you need to go. We're really there to make that sort of thing happen. And we're pretty scrappy, we're pretty innovative, and we're really trying to figure it out on behalf of those we serve. So
thank you so much, Katie. Absolutely.
Yes.
I hope you'll come back too, because this is an ongoing discussion. Yeah.
Yes.
Housing will always have, hopefully, a seat at the table, and we appreciate being at yours.
Absolutely. Kevin, and any closing from you?
Yeah, so I just want to put a few more thoughts out there about the homeownership part of it. We talk about the down payment assistance because that's a big hurdle for folks to purchase a home. But we also want, we like to share that it's not just that, it's also access to affordable credit. So anybody who's thought about purchasing a home or whatnot, they may know that the lower their credit score, the higher the interest rate they're going to pay. Or if they're purchasing a manufactured home, that can often increase the interest rate they'll pay. With our program, the interest rate's the same, provided you meet the minimum credit score of 640. The interest rate's the same, no matter what your score is and no matter what type of property you're buying. So that access to affordable credit helps tremendously in the long term, make the monthly payment. And then again, along with that down payment assistance, even opportunity for reduced mortgage insurance premiums to help keep those payments more affordable. So it's not just the down payment part, which is still a huge part of it, but try to really help in every way we can make homeownership affordable.
So last reminder to talk to your lender. If you have an existing lender, talk to your realtor, correct?
Yeah, realtors on our website, we have a realtor referral tool as well. And those are folks that have just taken our training and are familiar with our programs.
And those are the ones you want to start with. So fantastic. And the website one last time is?
nvrural.org, or if you're looking for lender or home buyer information, homeatlastnv.org.
Thank you both for being here today. Thank you, listeners. And I hope everybody listening, if even one person is assisted by the information today, wow, that could make a tremendous difference in the quality of life. And we'd like to say, home means Nevada, and welcome home, and home at last. And Elko is a fantastic place to live. So we hope that we can help make your home owning, or at least your transitional needs, a dream come true. So thank you for joining us for today's program.